lost that fun I used.
Two of my favorite wines at the moment. I'm a champagne adorer, and I just love it. I live for champagne, and this is a champagne that I discovered not so long ago. It's called Lanson, and this is the rosé. It's a blend of Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier, and it's just like the perfectly light, pretty salmon color, really earthy, delicate fruitiness, and great minerality in it. The red is actually a wine near and dear to my heart. It's called Jules Harrison, and it's a wine that I made with a friend of mine. Harrison is her child and Jules is mine, so we made up a fictional winemaker. It's Pinot Noir from Santa Maria Valley. I love Pinot Noir from this area because it's actually a perfect place for growing Pinot.
I laugh and cut down all my friends. This is who I am. That's how
I grew up in a very food-obsessed family. Like, my dad would basically plan our vacations. We'd go to France and we would rent a house, and he would literally figure out like, what restaurants, 2- and 3-star restaurants we could go to most easily, and that's basically how he would decide where we were staying. Then at home, too, we would always, cooking and eating were always a big deal. My dad had this very complicated preferential voting system, so we would never just be like, hey, do you want to go to Spago for dinner tonight? It was like, okay, we're gonna have nominations now, and we would get all these pieces of paper and we would nominate all the restaurants we may possibly go to. We would all vote, and my sister and I had half a point each, and my parents each had a point, and then that's how we would decide basically where to go to dinner. When I was a senior in high school, my high school had a program where you would, for 2 weeks, you'd be off school, and you got to go do something. You were supposed to go do something that you always wanted to do. So I went and knocked on the door at Ma Maison, which was like the French restaurant at the time where Wolfgang Puck got started. They put me in the pastry kitchen, and I just worked there all summer, and I just loved it. I would make everything, and then I would go home and I could make it all over again, and I just became kind of obsessed with it. And so when I went to college, because I was sort of like always on this kind of college track, and first thing I did when I got there was went and got a job in a restaurant. So I worked at El Forno, which is a great restaurant in Providence, Rhode Island. When I graduated, kind of decided that I wanted to do. I had to kind of make this decision of whether to do the restaurant thing, which at the time was it wasn't like a normal thing to do. So I just decided to go do this kind of unusual thing, and I just kept thinking if it didn't work out, I could always go back to school or do whatever. So did that. Ended up working a lot of great places. I worked at Chez Panisse in Berkeley. I worked in France for a year for a chef named Didier Udil, and then with Mark and Nancy at Camp Niue. And it was when I was there that I had this friend who kept telling me about this. She had a friend whose friend really wanted to open a restaurant, and I was like, okay. I had been the chef at this really small place in Boston with 28 seats, and my goal was to come home and do something like that. And I was looking at spaces and I couldn't really find anything, and this friend of mine meanwhile keeps sort of telling me like, you should meet this woman, and she's a friend of my friend, and she really likes restaurants too. I was like, yeah. She called me one night and just said, I don't know why you keep avoiding this whole subject. I want you to meet, we want you guys to meet. And so she said, okay, 7 o'clock tonight at the Pearl on La Brea. We actually really just sort of hit it off and started looking at restaurants together. I mean, kind of pretty quickly. I think it was definitely one of those like gut feelings, because I know when I told my attorney, so I met this woman, I think I'm going to partner with her. He's like, what? I think it was just one of those things where it felt right. We felt very sort of simpatico, and we just went for it, and it worked out. I remember thinking, why am I not networking? I should be getting out there anyway. You get in that tunnel vision of the work that you're in and the group that you're with, and so I said, okay, and I just remember leaving there going, okay, that's crazy. I really like her. And I went home, told my husband all about her, and he is Mr. Cynical. He said, oh, I like her already, and I haven't even met her. Everything I told him about her just seemed so right. And from the beginning, everything that we talked about, we totally agreed on. We had the same, very similar visions for what we wanted, and down to things like, what do you think about this glass? Do you like this glass? How do you envision your dream restaurant to be? And I can think of a handful of times in the 15 years that we've worked together that we didn't agree on something. I feel like we're restaurant soulmates. Mm-hmm. I would probably take breakfast a little easy, like some kind of pastry deliciousness. Maybe like check out Sycamore Kitchen. I did start downtown there, end up in the Palisades at Alain Giroix's place. Oh yeah, because I love him.
Actually, that would be a good breakfast. Start them.
Oh, that's right. Okay, and then I would probably do kind of like what we do sometimes when we go to New York, which is, you know, pick 5 or 6 places and kind of hit them and have like sit at the bar and order 1 or 2 things and kind of check out a lot of what's going on around town.
Yeah, maybe I would do the theme of the young chef, and maybe
Right.
I would go to where I've been. I actually really like is Soto. Go there. I haven't been to Baco Mercat or
I went there actually.
the A.O.C.
I probably have to do some research, sadly. But I think I would just do a little like catch-up, like a little catch-up crawl. I've never been to A-Frame, which is a place I'm always hearing about. I have not been to Ink, which is a block from Luke. I've not been to Son of a Gun.
I haven't been to Animal.
Yep, an Animal. We've
Undecided, but there you go. There's some idea.
And from the moment I gazed into
I'm a sucker for, or have been in the past, a sucker for Top Chef. I mean, that's like our guilty pleasure. Like Dave and I will, you know, I come home and it's like, hey, I won't tell you what he calls it, but Top Chef is on. They actually are cooking and doing. It's not so kitschy. There's actually really real cooking and food going on, and I think we do appreciate it from a whole other level that normal people, regular people, civilians, whatever they're called, don't understand because we're sort of seeing the whole thing. But for me, I don't know how there's so many of them. And it just gets to the point where it's like, really? So now we're going to watch like more people with more challenges, doing more things in different places. It's like, it just gets a little, for me, it just gets dull.
I think it's done great things for food appreciation. And I think on that level, it's really, I think that may be a part of why the food world is more exciting now, and that people who are not working in it actually appreciate it because they're actually seeing beyond the plate. So I think in that respect it's done a lot. I mean, I get addicted to those shows too. Part of it is just that they've brought the drama to a different kind of operation, but I think that people now have a better appreciation for what it takes to create something that's really delicious.
let the music into me.
I would say, you know, the same things that have always inspired me, which is like the products themselves, the like traditions from around the world, the things that I taste and ways that I want to see things.
It's about the people who I work with and the people who come into the restaurant and the people who behind the wine and the people who are involved in everything that kind of goes into making what we do happen every day. And for me, I get inspired by, you know, the amazing winemakers, just trying to make all the people who come into the restaurant really happy, and all of our regular clientele, trying to keep them happy all the time and inspired to come in, and keeping our staff inspired to want to keep doing what we're doing. And
no, I think kind of to bounce off what you're saying is another element of it is like the family, and not my family at home, the family at the restaurant aspect of it, because that's definitely something that it's really 14 years for Luke, so we have a lot of people we've been working with for a long time, and I think keeping them inspired and interested, and it's actually kind of another sort of inspiration behind doing new things is, you know, helping them grow and have new experiences and move up in the restaurant world and giving them a voice and training and mentoring people, and that whole community is a big part of what we do.
I'm always flattered every day when I look at somebody who's worked for us for 14 years and they're still with us and happy to be there, and I'm always so thankful for those people and hoping that we're keeping them as excited every day.